I just put 500 rounds through the Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0. Some of that experience was great. Some of that was, well, you know, I mean, we're going to be comparing it to a Glock in this video a little bit, but ultimately we're going to break down this gun, go through its paces, and see if it really does live up to its legend. Let's go. So Smith & Wesson and their M&P lineup have been around for forever. I believe it's like 2005 is when the first one came out, and it's kind of always just been living in the shadow of what Glock was doing. But come 2017, which I have a feeling is when this gun's serial number is from, because it's like just the old style M&P 2.0, which is fine. It's great. And I'm glad that I got my hands on kind of the OG. But essentially with the 2.0 kind of refresh, what they aimed to do was make improvements based on feedback from the 1.0 of, you know, the trigger is improved, but also even if you don't like their improved trigger, you have a lot of options from there. So I've heard. I haven't shot the Apex trigger, the legendary Apex trigger. Additionally, they kind of beefed up the grip module, the frame, and so it doesn't feel as like squishy and cheap and chintzy. So I have not gotten my hands on a 1.0, but these are just some improvements they made. Not that anyone is looking for a 1.0, or even if you have a 1.0 these days, you probably already sprung for the 2.0 because this gun's 8 years old. I am very late to the party, but let's be real. Performance and specs and on paper things are one thing, but kind of how the gun drives, how it shoots reliably in the wild, in real life, is a completely different beast. So let's talk about my experience with it. If you guys are familiar with the channel, I've done a lot of SIG content in the past. That hasn't really aged so well currently. Maybe it'll be fine with further developments, but you know, I'm kind of branching out now a little bit. I've had Glocks, I've had Springfields as well, the Prodigy. So I'm a big 2011 guy. So performance is something that I really appreciate and look for in a gun, in a handgun, in any platform that I go to. So before we dive into my experience with it, let's kind of, you know, talk about the gun itself. It's very much so the takedown style, speaking of SIG, is very reminiscent of the 320, where you have, you know, you gotta lock that slide back and then you pop the takedown pin, slide comes off the gun. So that feels very, very familiar to me, which I like. I think that's one of the maybe limited good designs that the 320 has, and so I'm glad to see it on other platforms as well. Another feature that you really do notice right off the bat is the ergonomics and the grip. So the module and the texture is pretty awesome, especially for the time. For a 2017 gun where Glock was just saying absolutely fuck it with their texture or lack thereof, this gives you something to hold on to. I really do like the palm swells and how it kind of bows out on the sides here with that 3D texture, that 3D grip. I know companies like Dave Mods now is doing that kind of grip work on SIG 365X macros. I've seen it done on Glocks, stuff like that, but quote me if I'm wrong, please. I think Smith & Wesson was the first to do it, was the first to introduce it to a, you know, striker-fired handgun. Another thing about the texture that I do really like is it's not just side to side or front and back, it's full wrap texture. And that is exactly what I look for in a gun. When I do my own custom stipple stuff, that's what I prefer. So I'm glad to have that out of the box. It's one less modification I would have to do to this gun if I were to own it. So I guess with that, let me disclose how I got this gun, why I have this gun, etc. DK Mags has been a fantastic supporter of the channel for years and years. They sell guns, ammo, holsters, parts, NFA items, really anything you could ever want as a gun guy. Go ahead, check them out. Their online catalog, fantastic. Give them a call, let them know I sent you. If you are a Minnesota local and you head on in store, they're gonna give you a nice discount off of nearly everything in store. They gave this gun to me to shoot and review and put rounds through for 30 days. So it's just kind of at the end of that free trial that I have. And so that's why we're kind of doing just an initial impressions, kind of first shots on the M&P 2.0. Another supporter of the channel is Woobin. They sent out a couple of their lights to me. So this is their G5 little flashlight. It's very feature packed. It's got a swivel head LED. I think it has 200, 300 lumens. So, you know, bright enough to do admin stuff. It's not a tactical light where you could blind someone. It's not a weapon light replacement or a handheld weapon light replacement. So, but it's definitely a convenience item. So you can turn the light on. There's a little clip that you can affix it to a hat and do stuff like that. I'm trying not to flash you guys there, sorry. And it charges via USB-C. They're very cheap, so go ahead, check them out. Links in the description down below. Back to the M&P, talking about the grip, one last thing is, although I do prefer my texture to be like this, one thing to note is that you might run into the age-old, I don't know if you guys can see them, you probably can't see them, but the micro holes in your t-shirt problem, as well as on the other side, that gun's gonna be on your skin. So if you have a sensitive little tummy, it might tear up your skin a little bit, but I haven't actually carried this gun because I don't have a holster for it, so it just doesn't really work out. And it's hard for me to conceal a Glock 17 size gun, like a full-size gun. I'm 5'5". A lot of you could probably do it with ease. I know a lot of shooters do carry like the full, like Hunter Constantine, the Jedlinski, Scott Jedlinski from Samurai, Modern Samurai guy, gun guy, carries a full-size M&P. A lot of people do. Last thing with the grip, it comes with back straps, which again, a great feature. Now that's kind of a standard, but it's a nice thing to see that you can kind of customize how that gun feels in your hand, depending on what you need it to do based on the size of your hands. The angle of the grip and how it points is 1911-esque. It's very similar in terms of the degrees you need to line up the sights with each other. So that feels pretty familiar to me as a 2011 and SIG shooter, although SIGs are slightly different. One other feature to note here, or lack thereof, is there's no optic cut. So you're stuck with metal, which is good because, you know, Glock sends you with plastic sights. So these sights won't at least like get messed up, but they're not tritium, they're not high vis, they're not fiber optics, and you don't have the option to do throw an optic on there unless you get it cut, or you just get a newer M&P model. So you should probably do that anyways if you're going to get the M&P, unless you know you want to do a bunch of slide work and custom stuff to kind of bring it up to where you want it to be, or if you just don't care about features and you want the bare bones, but you want performance from a platform that is extremely well tested and that you could trust your life to. So that's kind of, I guess, who this version of the gun is for, but you know, we're talking about just my experience with it so far. Talking about the trigger, it's pretty good. It's definitely better than a stock Glock. It's not better than a like done up Glock. So I'll talk about that for a little bit. The take up is, so this is obviously the curved shoe, which is like the OG style. All right, so the take up is pretty significant. You hit a wall, a tiny bit of creep, and then a nice, pretty solid break. Reset is pretty positive, and you definitely feel it, you can hear it, all that kind of good stuff. I do like a nice reset. If I had to pick one aspect of the trigger pull to perfect, it would not be the reset. It would probably just be the break. So at least the break is pretty predictable and pretty good, but I am a little bit curious about how the actual like perfect aftermarket Apex trigger would feel in the hand, because this feels pretty good to me. However, here's a Glock 48. I had the trigger internals polished, and then I just replaced the shoe with a Tyrant CNC trigger shoe and the take up. And to me, this feels really, 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 really good for self-defense. A heavier pull than the M&P actually, but take up is extremely short. The wall is super crisp. It literally, there's no, once you hit the wall, that's it. Like you just keep pulling and then it breaks. Like kind of like, Great reset. Yeah. That's the trigger that I like. So, but you know, this one's pretty good. Moving on up to the slide, I do really like the fish scale serrations. Although I guess when it comes to the scales, I do prefer the like dragon scale serrations, but these kind of look a little bit similar, just like kind of the gayer version, but they're not bad. They're very grippy. They bite, whether you're barehanded or gloved. Even up at the front, I do want more, like I want like a full wrap or at least full side profile serration, but at least they give you a little bit of texture there on that slide if you are a kind of front style press checker. Fit and finish is pretty good. The slide shows no sign of wear, although the slide release definitely does. I don't know if you guys can pick that up. I did run this in and out of the holster, as you could see in the footage with a TLR1. It was fit for a SIG 320 holster, and there's no slide wear on it, but I think the holster is grabbing the light, so I don't know how much contact the slide was making with the holster, so I can't really speak to that. The controls are laid out pretty nicely and pretty well. The slide release is ambidextrous, which is great. I mean, yeah, not that I need it, but it's a good feature, I guess. And the magazine release, I believe, is reversible, but it's not ambidextrous like something like the Springfield Echelon comes with. Okay, so through the specs, a gun can look great on the table. It can look like it shoots great, but does it actually shoot great? That's kind of the question. So we put it through its paces, my father-in-law and I do really like this gun. We shot mostly with 115 grain standard brass. I think some 124s were mixed in there as well. And we put around 500 rounds through it. I had a total of exactly 0 malfunctions during the time, and so did my father-in-law. Shot steel, it performed flawlessly. This is not anything new. I think you guys and most of the people who have gotten behind an M&P 2.0, that's what you really do expect, is just perfect reliability and a perfect track record, that it's gonna go bang every time you pull the trigger. It's gonna feed the rounds reliably every time you cycle a magazine through it. And the only issue that I did run into, which it's not a malfunction because it's the way that I grip the gun, is it didn't lock back when on the final round. That's because when I grip the gun, I don't have like a crazy high grip like you see PewView. What's his name? The guy from PewView. He grips the gun extraordinarily high, so he's guaranteed to never have lockback on any handgun. But the way that I grip it is pretty typical. I just, kind of go down here, cup it right there, cup the balls, and then usually it doesn't touch the slide, but that was enough to not allow the slide release. Although, I mean, you could do an extended slide release, slide catch, whatever you want to call it, and that would probably circumvent the issue. And if I were to keep this gun, sorry, I'm kind of spoiling what's happening here with the future of me and this gun specifically, I would have to swap that out anyways, because that's kind of a problem area that I had, especially with reloads and stuff. So I would kind of hit bolt lock, slide lock, and then I would go to hit the slide release. I'm like, oh crap. That is the one hang up point that I had with this gun through the time that I shot it with. Was really do hate that slide release. I don't know if it's this gun, it's like this model, if it's sticky, or if that's just kind of a problem throughout. When it comes to accuracy, this thing is pretty awesome, pretty dang good. And I think recoil control, you can kind of wedge those two in, because I was doing doubles on most of the targets, and for the close-up target, the doubles, I was able to go super fast, as fast as I could possibly run the gun, and the rounds were on target 9 times out of 10. So was really pleased and surprised, because this gun's not ported or compensated, and I shoot, 9 times out of 10, the guns that I shoot are going to have ports or compensator on it. And when I put rounds through this one, it didn't feel like it was any different than those guns. It behaved really flatly. It shot extremely pleasant. When I took it out to 50 yards, accuracy was great. Was able to get shots on steel, even with just the iron sights. So that was pleasant. And when it comes to how the gun's gonna behave, how it's gonna feel under recoil, this is great. But they also have their metal frame version. They have their metal comped version. So they have a lot of models that are even gonna be more recoil friendly than this one is. So that's kind of hard to wrap my mind around, because it just behaves so nicely. I do want to get my hands, this creates an appetite for me to get my hands on some of the other M&P 2.0s, some of the more advanced or custom prosumer models. Well, interestingly enough, this bare bones version of the M&P 2.0 does beat the Glock in most of the out-of-the-box features. You got that Picatinny rail I forgot to mention. Plus, I know Grand Thumb did like a freezing test where he froze a bunch of handguns, and the M&P 2.0 was the best performing one when it comes to reliability in that aspect. So I like my Gucci Glocks a lot, and I like them better than this gun, but I haven't shot a stock Glock for a very long time. So I don't think I would take a stock Glock over this gun, honestly. So it just has so many more features, and even for like a cheaper price. So kind of hard to beat there. The final question is the M&P 2.0 any good? And obviously, yeah, it's pretty great. Hopefully we can get some other variants on the channel in the near future. Would love to hear what your guys' thoughts are in the comment section down below. Are you an M&P lover? Are you a Glock lover? And you just came here to hopefully see the M&P fail. Sorry, it didn't. This gun proves to be a great option if you are not looking to do a bunch of upgrades and you just want performance right out of the box for an affordable price. Also, you know, if you just want a blank slate and something, also if you just want a complete blank slate for you to modify and go crazy with, personalize, customize for your needs and your desires, this is also maybe a great place to start. So thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate your time here on the channel. Remember to stay safe out there. God bless you and your family. And don't forget to live a life worth defending. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.